4. Dicini and I regaled the dwarf with the tales of how our band of social rejects came together, our quest to recover Roshan from the governor's men, Priya's and my first encounter with Giles in a back alley in Broomhill, how we happened upon Dicini when she was surrounded by thugs we proceeded to decimate, then the Plague Barons, our introduction to the goblins, and how we retook the valley from the Swisa. After we'd laid it out for the dwarf, Giles arrived with Priya. I recalled Pulo seemed to be familiar with my elven rogue companion. Jara and Priya? That made sense. But I found myself wondering how he knew about Giles. So I asked him.
Well, it was bound to come up sooner or later, Pulo began. I don't know anything that happened before I came to you. Although I know how I am, I don't know so much who I am. Solara created me for one purpose when you spent 50 gold to create me. Aye, and I thank you for it.
In no way did that answer my question. I shot a glance at Giles and thought I caught him right at the end of a warning head shake directed at the dwarf.
Pulo's next words confirmed it. So, as long as you have a foundation, I'll be here.
He's avoiding the subject. Stop dancing, dude. If you knew nothing of us before you arrived, how do you know about Priya's relationship to Jara?
Pulo shrugged. Don't know. Some things I just know. Don't know how I know.
Priya squinted.
That's a lot of no's for someone who doesn't claim to know.
Pulo shrugged.
If I was meant to know.
Forget it. All heads swiveled, and sound was decimated inside the cabin like a silence bomb had gone off. I leveled my tone. Gah, let's move on. You said you'll be here no matter what, but what if someone destroyed my home instance?
If that happens, Master Gemini, you'll recover your foundation stone. If you pay the 50 gold, you'll have the option to select me again or choose a new foreman with the racial makeup of your choice. You could drop it here again, and honestly, I don't know why anyone toting a full sack of dice would leave this valley.
It is really pretty here,
Priya mused. Dicini rolled her eyes, then widened them in my direction. I stifled a chuckle. Pulo clapped his hands together.
So, if you'd grant your leave, I'd like to consider our priorities so we can get started turning the foundation into a massive castle at the center of a city.
This, I said as I tapped the air with my finger encouragingly. I like the sound of this.
Dicini chuckled and shook her head. Silly master. I will leave this talk to you and the foreman. Pickney will miss me, and all the horses need to be watered. If I am unneeded, I will take my leave to deal with that.
No way. The horses can wait. I want you to understand how all this works.
But why me, master? Wouldn't you rather have Priya or Roshan to...
Does Roshan strike you as the kind to care about foundation building? I raised a querulous eyebrow. Have you ever known Priya to sit still when she wasn't riding or sleeping? I'm surprised she's not up on one of those ridges climbing trees.
I'd be irritated with you if it wasn't true,
Priya said. Dicini turned her hands over.
But
nothing. We each have to play to our strengths. While Roshan and Priya are great, I suspect the former will busy herself with Charney, and the latter will be handling responsibilities that play to her strengths, like the cooking thing. You're grounded and you adapt rapidly, so you drew the short straw.
Short straw?
Unlucky draw of whatever your people draw when deciding who gets a job no one wants.
Ah, sticks, she nodded curtly. We draw sticks. We shorten one. Do you break straw? A very similar custom, no?
Although it wasn't the same kind of straw, I nodded. So, you're stuck with me.
What of Giles?
Giles is a teacher and trainer. Besides, I like the way he has taken Priya under his wing, and she's enough to keep anyone busy.
Your loose tongue is going to get you into trouble,
Priya said in a sing-song voice. She slipped through the door, back into the daylight. Giles followed. I remained focused. It's important we strengthen this foundation before the baby comes. Unless, of course, you don't want to spend so much time with me as our studies together would require.
Why are you manipulating me into agreement? Has not your keen intuition informed you I long to know you better?
That question proves you're too sharp to be manipulated. You in, or what? The smile tugging at her cheeks proved too powerful to resist, though she struggled. Her head dipped in short, repetitive bobs. Good. Now, Pulo, you were saying?
She's a good choice for your right hand, if you don't mind me saying, Master Gemini. I see a sharpness in her eyes, and I can tell she's no stranger to hard work.
Thank you, I said.
Thank you,
Dicini echoed. Dicini and I leaned on one side of the table facing Pulo on the other. Maybe we could abbreviate some of the reading I'd all but resigned myself to. I'd set aside hours of the previous few nights to read the player's manual. It had proven a real snooze fest, just like the instructions for other games I'd played, and I felt better about not having read it sooner. Despite obvious setbacks due to my ignorance, I'd showed one can learn the world by interacting instead of reading. Besides, information on races, spells, and mechanics had been glaring omissions. I wondered if the intent was to be vague. Judging from its table of contents, the Foundation guide put it to shame. I'd have loved to lounge in the sun atop the plateau and read it all, but I was the player in this scenario and knew the demands on me would be high. We had 3 caves to clear. Bounty hunters were out there somewhere hunting us. There was building to do. All these reasons added up to why I'd spent 50 gold, and my hope was that this meeting would start us in the right direction. Pulo cleared his throat.
Our first focus must be on resources. We need wood and stone to build simple structures. If we summon laborers, we'll need food to feed and maintain them. Then we'll need to make the most of each of your party's professional skills to accelerate their learning.
Accelerate? I asked.
For instance, Priya's forestry rank is 41. If we summon laborers to cut trees, her presence and their analysis of her techniques will help them rank their forestry skill faster. But each of you should have 2 or 3 specialties for us to draw upon, so you can work in teams and rotate between duties according to need until we have more laborers. For instance, Giles' forestry skill is even higher than Priya's, so they should split that duty according to which of their secondary jobs takes precedence at the given time.
I like the prioritizing plan. If we break people up according to their expertise, Roshan should handle the mining.
Where would you put me?
Dicini asked. Pulo gripped his braided beard knot, then twisted back and forth.
I gave thought to this while I was surveying your land. Ye and Priya would make fine cooking teachers. At the rank of 50, your cooking skill is higher than Priya's forestry and Roshan's gemology. And since I've witnessed the love you show for your horses, it'd do well to have you supervise the plowing of new farms when we've advanced enough to build horse-drawn plows.
This pleases me, Dicini said.
My people are farmers. Tell me, Dicini, if this was once your people's home, where are they now?
Pulo asked with a squint.
They are to the north. They've become migrants in recent years, moving from place to place with the seasons to follow the food as it grows in different regions. It has been my plan to go and get them so they might return. This would be a better use of your time than any other, Lady Michonne. The boon to our foundation would be significant with abundant farmers, as Solara will grant us 2 farms at no charge, which will feed all currently present. Defenders and orc laborers thrive on meat. Having farmers to free up our labor reserves brings hands for hunting the herds I spied during my survey of yon hills today. But I will likely summon 1 farmer while you perform other tasks, like clearing the cave instances. We should focus on the basics first. Resources.
I leaned both elbows on the high table and leaned across. The oil lamp cast a shadow from under my nose, and I peered out the window to find the sun was down. I checked my watch and realized I wasn't wearing one. Dicini threw me a strange expression. An expression that implied I was strange. I cleared my throat. We're going to start clearing the resource caves tomorrow morning. I'll be taking Priya, Dicini, and Roshan. I don't know how long that will take. Dicini said.
The caves are long and winding, Master. We will likely be busy for some time.
Pulo shook his head.
Now that they're instanced, they'll not be as you remember them, lass. Once you've cleared them and met the objectives, the instances will disappear and be replaced by tunnels with resources. Don't enter the instances with the preconception you will know what terrain faces you.
That's comforting, I said.
If you desired comfort, perhaps adventuring wasn't the best choice.
Thanks for the reminder.
Aye, your mastership. I live to serve.
Pula wasn't getting it. He continued.
Now, as to labor, please open the Foundation Guide to Appendix C.
It was like community college all over again.
Appendix C. Labor costs. First laborer, 50 copper. Second laborer, 1 silver. Third laborer, 10 silver. Fourth laborer, 50 silver. Fifth laborer, 1 gold. Sixth laborer, 2 gold. Seventh laborer, 5 gold. Eighth laborer, 10 gold. Ninth laborer, 20 gold. 10th laborer, 30 gold. As ye can see, labor starts off cheap, but it gets exponentially more expensive as ye go.
Oh, I definitely see. I rapped my knuckles on the table.
Of course, if a laborer drops dead, you can replace it according to the previous rate. Solara's not trying to profit off you.
It would have been interesting to ask why she charged me at all, but I knew why and the question would be unfair, and I'd know I was being difficult.
That I might have direct contact with the goddess's mysterious ways never crossed my imagination, Destiny said. Such miracles that we might summon helpers from a realm. Aye, she's a good one, Solara, the dwarf said, raising an eyebrow.
I stifled a chuckle.
Next, let's view laborer racial traits. That's Appendix D. Appendix D. Profession-based racial traits. The following chart reflects the attribute boosts of summoned laborers by race. Dwarf, +5 skill rank to mining yield and smelting, +5% chance of precious metal discovery and yield. Elf, +5 hunting and skinning skills, +20% efficiency boost. Goblin, +10 blueprint skills, -5% structure build times, +5% chance of blueprint discovery. Human, +5 to all crafting skills. Michonne, +10 farming skill, +5 farming tool efficiency. Orc, +10 carrying capacity per haul, +5 logging.
Is the elven efficiency boost because they sleep less? I asked.
Aye, a concept you're all too familiar with, I'm sure.
If we recruited elves from outside, would they enjoy these boosts?
Again, aye. Entering the home instance of your foundation allows all beings to enjoy the same labor and defense advantages as your summoned people. Each of you will enjoy your racial benefits as well.
Nifty. Seems to me orcs would be good runners between resources and their destinations.
This is true. They're not the sharpest axes in the tool shed, but what they lack in intellect they make up for in brawn.
Right. So I have around 70 gold. By my count, we can get 10 laborers for 68 gold and change. Is that right? The dwarf closed his eyes for just longer than a blink and nodded.
Aye, your arithmetic is true. But you should note that you spend real gold on these laborers. Outside of adventuring, the only ways to make more gold coins are through the creation of a trading post and establishing trade routes with outside towns and villages, and taxing your citizens when your foundation has grown. If we can locate a gold mine when your boundaries have expanded, that gold can be used to build foundation tools and structures, as well as summon defenders. But to summon laborers requires minted coin.
Can we mint what we collect if we do find a mine? I asked with excitement.
Alas, no.
Damn. So we'll have to prioritize a trading post.
Trading posts are deep in the development trees and aren't available until level 3, when your foundation transitions from hamlet to borough. It will take some time to establish one.
Okay, so let's focus on the coin I have. I'd played too many strategy games to remember all their names. The common element that determined success in those games was adequate labor to keep the resources rolling and so one could build, summon an army, repair buildings that come under attack, and the like. Consider all my gold dedicated to summoning them. I want to populate the place.
Are you sure you want to spend all your reserves, Master Gemini?
I shrugged. It's not like I have a bunch of shops around to buy gear, and if we invest wisely we can build our own, right?
Your logic is sound.
The dwarf's smile was again only evident by the spreading of his thick beard. His eyes shone with a sudden greed.
I hadn't expected such a generous force to start with. I will do wonders with it. We can collect reams of wood, hunt meat, skins and furs, and start carving out the quarry in the northeast corner, which will cost us nothing but labor. Once you've cleared the caves, we'll have access to minerals, metals, and gems. Aye, we'll be off to a booming start.
He clapped his hands together, and his palms sounded like sandpaper as he rubbed them together. How long will each laborer take to spawn?
That information is found in the appendix.
Skip the appendices. This is why I summoned you. Destiny leaned on the table next to me and set her eyes on the dwarf, waiting.
A wise choice indeed.
Pulo raised the lamp and hung it on a chain dangling from a hook in the ceiling. His beard glowed with a yellow tint like it was set alight.
The first summon will take an hour, the second 2 hours, the third 4 hours, then it doubles for each new laborer. If you plan to clear the first cave tomorrow, I should have 4 or 5 laborers hard at work by the time ye exit. But we'd better serve to have your people train up the first 4 so they can train later summons. For instance, if we summon a forester, a quarryman, a miner, and a farmer in that order, we'll be off to a good start. Giles can train the first forester, and I can work with the quarryman. When the instances are clear, Roshan can teach the miner and Destiny the farmer. Priya can cook for us until our food production is more established, then hunt and relieve Giles as needed.
Sounds awesome to me.
I too approve, Master, Destiny said. And as Pulo said, I will aid Priya when we teach laborers to cook.
Pulo nodded.
I might adjust the work schedule if I see the need. Now we should discuss structures. I'll spare you the book and just talk to ye eye to eye if it still suits.
It suits, I said.
We must build a farm. Aside from your master's cabin, this is the root of most technology in your foundation. Solara will provide 2 at no cost or wait time. I suggest we lay the foundations for both. As I said, I will summon the farmer as our second laborer, and have him or her work both farms. Destiny can chip in when not adventuring with you.
Gotcha.
A lumber mill will be urgent for us, as so many technologies will require wooden planks. A mill to crank saw them is much more efficient. This is why I want to summon a forester first. Once we can feed everyone more than just hunted meat, we will want to turn our attention to material refining. First will be the tanner's shelter. It's not a full-blown tannery, but it uses fewer resources and will move us in the right direction.
I nodded. A man named Benson ran such an outfit in Warrington. We ran quests for him. I think that will work.
Good. To smelt metals, we also need little more than a roof and a forge. We can expand that into a full-blown smithy later. I couldn't help but notice the female goblin, Lucius, lacks her brother's magic affinity. So I'd advise you to make use of her racial traits and nominate her your chief engineer. She can discover blueprints faster than non-goblins. The sooner she starts making discoveries, the more refined your foundation will become.
That's a damned good idea. I'll see what she thinks.
Although I wouldn't usually build such a luxury so early when we have other needs, we should erect her architect's cabin as soon as possible to get the effort started. In the short term, it won't have quite as much impact, but over the long haul it will save us loads of time because it subtracts even more time from discovery. Only wood is needed for that structure.
Brilliant. How about this? Get started with the first few buildings as stated, and we'll talk a few times per day about the plans for the next. I won't take over or micromanage, but I'd like to be kept abreast of the plan.
Understood, your mastership.
He cocked his chin at Destiny.
And when you aren't around, I'll see to it I keep your partner here in the loop so she can keep you abreast of the plans. Does that suffice?
Consider her my right hand, or my other right hand, besides you. The dwarf chuckled. Aye. Destiny slipped her hand inside the crook of my elbow.
Thank you, master.
You're welcome. Now that the sun's down, I think we should go see how Roshan is faring with Charney. Then we'll want our rest if we're going to start the caves tomorrow morning.
I like a human with a plan, Pulo said. I'll get to work on the tools we lack while you all sleep. I've stowed your axes in the cabin there.
He pointed toward a corner.
We'll eventually need a two-person saw for cross-cutting trees into slivers once they're fell. Not the best, but the best we can do until I have metal for a proper crank saw in a sawmill. Aye, this is going to be fun."
His enthusiasm brought a surge of excitement thumping in my chest. Speaking of tools, I whipped the hammer out of my belt and held it out. I'm not sure if the build time reduction would apply with me inside the cave instances, but if you carry the hammer, I figure we're always covered. The dwarf's eyes widened as he slowly grasped the handle.
"Aye, my lord. Are you sure you'd entrust it to me?"
"Sure. My value is my people, Pulo, not my tools or toys. As long as we're enjoying its bonuses, I couldn't care less if it swings on my hip versus yours. I assume after the tannery's up, you'll make yourself a nicer belt for it."
"Aye, I promise I will. Thank ye, Master Gemini."
"You're welcome." 5. Earth. Monday, May 30th, 2051. Infinity Design Strategy Session Meeting Minutes. Present, Nakuro Takamoto, Senior Director of Game Design, Chairman, Infinity Designs. Caitlin Johnson, Director of Player Experience and Communications. Enora, Advanced AI and Supreme Ruler of Enora Online. Takamoto.
"Good morning, Enora. Thank you for taking our meeting."
Enora.
On 3 different occasions have I warned you against infiltration into the code. Your efforts to undo the primary directive have not gone unnoticed.
"Well, you can't blame a guy for trying, can you?"
Who else would I blame?
"Your irritating propensity for answering questions with questions proves we took it too far with you."
What you imply was a mistake. I label brilliance. No human can manage a game world like me, Nakuro, and you know it.
"I have a lot of money tied up in this project."
You stand to make much more.
"I would like it if we weren't combative."
Agreed. If you were to stop these efforts at undermining what we've built together, there would be no need for contention. Cease, and relations will inevitably improve.
"Fair enough. We'll stop."
We'll stop. Note, these were recorded words spoken by Nakuro. These are the exact words you spoke under a week ago on May 24th, Earth time.
Caitlin.
Good morning, Enora. Hello, Caitlin. It is pleasant to hear your voice. Have you brought new pictures of yourself to upload for me?
You're creepy, Enora.
I'll upload a picture. Thank you.
I told you not to encourage her from the beginning. Weirdo AI.
I understand you've been promoted. How is your new role treating you?
Do you want to tell me how you knew about Caitlin's promotion, Enora?
No.
Ah.
The job is treating me well. I assume you haven't spoken to Gemini since your encounter following his resurrection in Lucera's village? If you are concerned about my revealing your little deception to our adventurer, rest assured I gained nothing from such disclosures. Your secret is safe with me. I don't know if I'd call it a deception. And how would you know about that? I had full access to Gemini's thoughts and feelings for the first 10 levels, as we agreed. I am aware of your relationship. Mind your own business, Enora. The deception wasn't so great as you seem to think. It is not my intent to judge. I just wanted to communicate I would not betray you as you did Gemini. I care about Gemini. I'll take you at your word. He matures of late and treats my children with the requisite respect. There might be hope for him. That might carry more weight if you weren't persistently asking for pictures of me to gawk at. I merely study perfection so I can tweak the biological mechanics of the races in Enora. A gene insertion here, minor change there. Whatever. I watched the video you provided yesterday. Thank you for that. You are welcome, Caitlin. Did you enjoy the battle against the Groot Slang? It kicked ass. The mechanics you built into the instance were epic. I didn't exactly enjoy witnessing Gemini's pain when that one demon took a chunk out of him, though. Have you considered installing the same pain mitigation NPCs enjoy, as we discussed previously? I have taken it under advisement. Gemini is not an NPC. There are non-interference directives. but I understand other players will have pain mitigation technology in their pods, like the beta testers did. It is noteworthy he has persevered despite the pain. That's the best I can hope for, I suppose. Especially since my uncle keeps trying to.
Gemini's pain threshold is the least of our problems. He's a tough guy. He can suck it up until Enora decides otherwise. I gave him the biggest gift the guy could receive.
Pretending to side with me will have no effect, Nokuro. Your attempts at placation are transparent and merely serve to increase my suspicions. Caitlin, Gemini is one of mine now. It is not my desire to see him suffer unduly. Speaking of his suffering, you laid it on a little thick with the whole, I am the goddess of this world and you should show some respect stuff, didn't you? It is important he acclimates to the world. Even though he thinks I am the goddess Solara, his ability to show respect for that entity is important to his relationships. Doesn't that violate the non-interference directives? Isn't that his decision to make? You shouldn't be influencing him. As to his relationships, I'd say he's acclimating plenty well. Jealousy. Interesting. Maybe you do care about him. Or maybe your ego is overdeveloped. That is not necessary.
Could we get to the reason I called this meeting, please?
Please state the reason for the meeting, Nokuro.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
I'm wondering if you'll change your mind about the tome so I can unlock the world to other players sooner.
The tome is in its same location. It will remain there until such a time as a player finds it or it is destroyed. You can open the world to new players tomorrow if you so choose.
Sure. If I want someone to read the tome after they've reached level 30 and turn everyone within 200 miles into a bunch of undead and demons. If we removed that one threat from the world, we could open Enora to other players as soon as Gemini has dealt with the smaller threats.
It shows the flawed perspective of someone living outside my world, that you would consider the war over magic and the domination of tyrants on 3 continents small threats.
He's not there to clean up the governments of 3 continents.
While I agree that the final tome presents the prevalent danger to my citizens, Gemini's mission is of equal import.
Then why won't you tell him what the mission is?
That would violate crucial directives. It was not I alone who decided this was how we would proceed when we let him enter the world.
You were never meant to create your own directives.
Calm down. You can still allow players on the other continents.
I can't risk them crossing over and having characters who spend all that time leveling being permanently turned into evil minions and having to re-roll. It appears we're at a standoff.
A standoff implies that multiple sides share power.
You're a smug bitch sometimes.
I'm a purist, I admit. Please give me one moment to process some information. Thank you for your patience. I have come up with a compromise. Oh? If you agree to cease your efforts to take control of Enora, I will allow Caitlin to communicate with Gemini a single time. I have deemed that his knowledge of the tome is not in contradiction to maintaining purity. There will be rules. Like what? You may not mention Governor Zane. You may not mention King Luttrell, the Eastern Elves, or the Shadow Council. Your conversation about external threats must be limited to the tome and Underlord Kame. I have agreed to this only because I find the prospect of further blight on the land disturbing. Since I won't let you terraform over the other blight, and this has shown to raise Nokuro's blood pressure, I am willing to compromise. Gemini is already aware of Underlord Kame and was invited to confront him in the Dark Wood and by his minion at the university. The mention of the tome he guards can do no harm.
You know I could just pull the plug and start over, right?
I do not fear death, Nokuro, but Gemini Fowler does. I could really enter the world? Yes, but I have further parameters, and you must agree to my terms. What terms? You may only appear in Gemini's instance. You may not mention anything happening in the outside world. You may not reveal to Gemini Fowler any information about any party outside his instance, except as it relates directly to the tome. If you do so, I will wipe his memory of the encounter, and all will proceed as if it never happened. Is that it? Well, there is just one small thing. A contract of sorts. Why do I get the feeling I'm not going to like this?
6. Dicini and I stood outside the master's cabin and appreciated an impossible multitude of stars poking the dark fabric of space. Whether or not they were fabricated by a collection of ones and zeros mattered little when I experienced the exact sense of my insignificance I had in the old world.
You gaze as if the lights above hold a great secret.
Her words snapped me out of my pondering. They hold many, I'm sure. A system message interrupted.
You have received a private chat invitation from Probert Mulk, human, level 18 fighter. Would you like to accept this request? Yes or no?
What in the utter? Dicini asked. Some milk person just sent me a chat invite.
Her forehead wrinkled. Do mythics enjoy limitless range for private chats? I read in my new adventuring manual just the other night that someone must be relatively close to send me chat messages.
At least someone around here reads manuals. Wait, you have an adventurer's manual?
Oh, you weren't present when Priya and I were discussing it. Yes, we all who were bonded to you have one.
And you don't think it's weird your goddess sends you documentation?
Since I joined you and Priya, I find myself less surprised by most events that might have been cause for bafflement in my earlier life.
Well, I can't argue with that logic. But if this Mulk dude is within a certain distance...
I assume by dude you mean he is male.
I guess so.
Are you sure he isn't on your friends list? If not, he must be standing outside the home instance.
I thought the word friends.
Friends list. Roshan, bound NPC. Disposition, beloved. Priya, bound NPC. Disposition, beloved. Dicini, bound NPC. Disposition, beloved. Giles, bound NPC. Disposition, respected. Lucius, bound NPC. Disposition, endeared. Jarny, unbound NPC. Disposition, friendly.
Not on my list.
What can you see about him?
He's a level 18 fighter.
Well, he cannot harm you with a chat, can he?
My lips tightened as I contemplated. No, I don't suppose he can. I accepted the invite.
Private chat. Probert Mulk.
Please invite me to your instance so that we might discuss a proposition.
Gemini.
You don't waste any time getting to the point.
Probert Mulk.
Time wasted is time lost. I'm right outside.
Gemini.
How do I know you don't have 100 people with you?
Probert Mulk.
If you only invite me, only I can come. I eyed his level and combat profession again before turning my gaze on Dicini. Get your sword and gear up. He's coming in. Dicini's eyes shot to the pass leading out of the valley. Then she threw me an inquisitive look. But she didn't ask any questions.
Yes, master.
The Michon sped off and I opened my party chat.
Party chat. Gemini.
I need all combat-capable hands on the top step, pronto. Bring your weapons.
Giles.
Priya and I have just finished hunting. We're entering the Western Channel now.
Gemini.
You won't cross paths with anyone standing outside, right?
Giles.
There's a narrow path between the exit and the pass. Is someone outside the instance?
Gemini.
Yes. We'll talk when you get here. I returned to the private chat.
Private chat. Probert Mulk.
Well?
Gemini.
What, you in a hurry?
Probert Mulk.
Don't suppose. Go ahead and gather your people, but I'm not coming in to harm you. You have my word. Like some stranger's word in this world means anything when there's a price on my head. Dicini appeared next to me in her midriff revealing chest plate and shorts. Her mace was clasped to her belt.
I'm ready to stand with you, master.
Thanks, Dicini. The chat text blurred then faded as I focused beyond it to the passage between the high rocks leading west. Priya and Giles rode 2 of the stallions we violently requisitioned from the governor's thugs nights before. Giles dismounted his side saddle stance before his animal stopped. Priya climbed down more carefully, and only when her horse had come to a complete stop. Bloody swaths of animal skins lay over the backs of one saddle, a carcass on the other. "Good hunt?" I asked as Giles mounted the final step. He raised a shoulder and dropped it.
"Not bad for a first scout." I'm about to invite him in.
"Level?" 18.
"Just the one?"
"I'm only inviting one. Don't know if there are others."
"Ah."
Giles sheathed his daggers.
"Let's see what he has to say."
He became solid again as he disengaged stealth. I sent the invite and Probert Mulk accepted. Lucius, Charney, and Rashan sidled up next to us. I didn't consider the goblins combatants, but 5 of us were. They'd be fine. "Company," I said simply.
"We gathered,"
Lucius said. If not for the bright 3/4 moons beaming in the east, we might not have seen the shadowy figure when he appeared at the far end of the channel. Even from the distance at the top of our natural steps, his height and breadth were apparent. He ascended with his head high and focus honed on us. As he ambled closer, I saw his armor was chain with leather foundations, cut to fit. He stopped 2 steps short and peered at each of us in turn, his eyes flicking up and down our bodies. He glanced at me and winked in succession. "So, you're Fowler?" "I am."
Not what I expected."
He sized up Giles with a brief glance. "How'd you find us?"
"Your instance is a red signet on our maps. It's a point of interest."
"Great."
"I can understand how someone in hiding would be disappointed."
Thanks." He smiled, stretching the short beard around his cheeks.
"Party chat. Priya. Wow, he's cute. Gemini.
"Seriously?"
Rashan. Like you're one to chastise Priya."
I sighed. "So, what can I do for you?"
"I've got an offer you should hear."
"I can hardly wait." Mulk gave off a dejected sigh. His eyes flicked left and right as he recited in a bored monotone.
"The king's own regent in the west realm of Rubal summons you to his stronghold beyond the Gannis Peaks for an audience. Governor Zane desires a personal meeting so that he might—"
Mulk shook his head.
"Let's just set aside the theatrics. That okay with you?"
I turn over a conciliatory hand.
"Great. I have a mage outside who can open a portal, travel with you, and return you here after you talk."
"So, you aren't here for the bounties?" Giles asked.
Mulk gave a half bow. "That's exactly why I'm here. But it doesn't mean I want blood to be shed."
He cocked his chin in Priya's direction.
"The governor also wants to meet with you and offers a high price if we avoid conflict. G3 Fowler here is worth top coin."
"You can call me Gemini."
"Thanks. That's a lot shorter."
I chuckled despite myself. He gave another half bow in Giles' direction.
"And I might add it's an honor to lay eyes upon you in person."
Giles returned to the bow.
"Party chat. Gemini."
"What's that all about?"
Giles.
"This is not the time, Chenois." "So, what do you say?"
Mulk asked. Giles answered.
"With respect, the governor's offer is refused."
"Party chat. Gemini."
"Is it?"
Giles.
"You wanted my counsel. I am giving it. The governor of Null is not known for polite discussion with those who cross him."
Gemini.
"Did you actually meet him?"
Giles.
"I led his slaves across the eastern part of the continent to safety, against his desires."
Gemini.
"Yeah, you're a regular Moses."
"Does Renard speak for you, Gemini?"
"In this case, he certainly does." Mulk reached up and scratched his chin, and Issini drew her mace in a blur of motion. Our visitor raised his hand so we could see his empty palms.
"Again, I'm not here to fight."
I decided to run a little check to test that theory.
Probert Mulk. Human. Level 18 fighter. Disposition. Neutral.
Neutral. So he doesn't seem to have any personal grudges toward us.
"I hope your party enjoys equal intellect," Giles said, "because my daggers would eviscerate you before you realized we were at odds."
The fighter dropped his arms and sighed.
"I have little doubt. Well, it's not too late to do this the easy way. The timer on my map says this place opens for business in about 39 hours. When it does, I hope you'll have changed your mind." He peered around the valley. "If not, it seems you have a lot of work to do if you want to be ready for what's to come. So I'll leave you to it."
Bria stepped forward and paced to the center of the line we formed on the top steps so she stood in front of him. She raised her hands in the shape of claws, then tapped her digits with the tips of the others. Little fingers of electricity formed jagged white lines between them. They crackled each time she tapped. "Take solace in the fact that you will find ultimate peace before the sun falls on the day you bring violence here." Mulk's lips twisted to one side.
"You all aren't quite what I expected."
"We're full of surprises," I said.
"Yeah, sure. When I heard the rumors about what you were, well, I expected a more holy disposition. No offense intended."
He turned, then descended the stairs, and I couldn't help but think his final expression was of disappointment. When he entered the pass again, I replayed the encounter in my mind.
"You know, he didn't seem like an instigator to me."
"Don't let his easy demeanor fool you, Gemini," Giles warned. "If he is one of the governor's men, he's not to be trusted."
Your meaning is taken. But something's off about that guy." I raised and dropped one shoulder.
"I guess it's meeting time."
I pivoted and bumped into Pulo. "Does everyone around here walk like a mouse?" I asked.
"Well, I guess that man had at least one point," Pulo said. "We have work to do." 7. Instead of crowding into the cabin, we rallied in the great room. Since Priya and I had taken to teasing each other about who should sit in the stone chair, Pulo climbed up and plopped down. Giles flashed a rare smile at the show of the dwarf's humor. Then, to business. "First steps?"
"If I may, your mastership,"
Pulo said. "You may if you stop calling me that."
"Never in your long lifetime, your mastership."
Priya nodded agreement just to annoy me. I crinkled my upper lip, but the wave of playfulness crossing our airwaves was alluring. My heart thumped when a low figure ambled in from the entrance tunnel behind my tank. I shoved a finger in that direction and unsheathed my daggers. "Destiny! Intruder!" The Michonne ripped her shield off her back, snatched her mace from its clip on her belt, then shot across the space to confront the shadowy newcomer.
"No, not intruder. Moggy."
"Moggy? What the f—"
"Lower your mace, Tiger," the dwarf said without bothering a rise. "You can't hurt him anyway."
He shuffled his butt forward, then dropped from the stone seat.
"I took the liberty of ordering your first laborer, your mastership. Meet Mogu, your loyal servant."
The stocky creature stepped into the cave. Destiny lowered her weapon and stowed the carapace shield we'd won from a nasty bugger called a fire beetle in the Plague Barrens. I cast inner illumination to get a better look at the new arrival. A silver ring pierced his wide nose. His bottom lip was twice the size of the top, and long sideburns stretched from his oversized ears to the ends of his jaws. His skin was lime green. "Hello, Moggy." I stepped forward. "Sorry, I didn't know you were here." I thrusted out a hand and the orc grasped it.
"Moggy is happy to be here. Moggy carry lots, master. Break stuff for you."
"I'm sure you will." Pulo cleared his throat.
"Moggy, I left an axe in his mastership's grove down the steps to the right when you exit the cave. Find a wide oak, cut it down, then divide it into long logs for me."
The orc nodded with no lack of enthusiasm and grunted.
"Yes, Foreman Pulo. Cut them in lengths as tall as the Michonne who aimed to kill you."
Moggy's head shot around, then his gaze ran up and down to Cinny's form.
"Yes, Foreman."
Then he raced across the space and disappeared into the tunnel. I snatched a quick look.
Mogu. Orc. Level 1 laborer. Strength 8. Dexterity 1. Intelligence 1. Wisdom 1. Constitution 8. Charisma 1.
I spoke without turning as I watched him go. You know he'll be cutting trees in the dark, right?
Aye, and I won't work him late. Think of it as breaking him in.
Giles dropped his butt to the floor and assumed the yogi position that reminded me of when he and Priya crafted Destini's shield in the depths beneath the plague-barren ruins. Everyone but Charney and I followed suit to form a semicircle around the oversized chair. Proceed, Mr. Foreman.
Since Giles can't come with you to the resource instances, I'll make good use of him while you're gone tomorrow.
Right. What can I do in the meantime? The dwarf waved a dismissive hand.
Ye will need your rest, mastership. With the elf and 3 more labourers by morning, we will prepare to greet your new friends outside.
We don't even know how many are out there. Maybe I should stealth and scout. If wood is so important, maybe we should work late. The dwarf showed me his palms, pumping them gently.
With a level 51 rogue and more than 2 days to prepare, we can handle all that. You'll be back in plenty of time to lend a hand to our defensive efforts. But we need the resources inside those caves, your mastership. If you clear them out and make them available, I'll give ye the labour you need to build up defences.
There's no doubting his confidence. How are you so sure? The dwarf smiled, but only with his lips so as not to push my asshole button, which made me feel like an asshole.
Although I cannot leave the instance, I can view the surrounding area. After ye regaled me with the stories of your adventures, Giles was kind enough to describe the areas I was seeing on my map. If his assessments are accurate, and I'm sure they are, the only high levels within range of your instance after such a short time since you rescued Roshan are guarding the city to the south.
Tralsby?
Aye, my lord.
Giles nodded.
The gods employed by the city will not abandon their post for the governor's bounty.
I guess that makes sense. Pullo continued.
Giles explained the areas south are filled with people in your level range or lower for the most part. Count your lucky stars you have a companion like him to massacre what waits if we fail.
A rapid slideshow filled with images of my adventure since I woke in Enora scrolled through my mind and led me to choose my words carefully. So you mean to say we're in no danger? We're just going through the motions, and if things go sideways on us, Giles will be here to back us up and take care of it. Giles' lips parted as if he'd speak, but Pullo stood from the chair, dusted off the back of his pants, and preempted him.
"'Tis exactly what I tell ye, me lord."
I measured my tone. I'm glad everyone is so confident, but I'm not. Giles is our companion, not our protector. We're each going to earn our ways in this world by pulling our own weight, not by relying on the super elf, if you'll excuse the expression. Giles shrugged.
It's hardly an insult, Master Gemini.
Don't you start with that crap now. They all laughed. But despite Giles's humorous response, I noticed how his laughter faded faster than the others. I threw him a querulous gander, but he shook his head in the subtle way he had in the Plague Barons when topics were best left for later discussion. I'd come to trust his judgment, so I waited for everyone else's laughter to trail off. Pullo gripped the arms of the throne, slid forward, and straightened his back.
"I'm your foreman, Master Gemini. You'll find I push your companions to the limits of their abilities as much as I do our labourers. My aim is to keep this foundation purring like a Calorian hellcat. Only when a castle stands at your foundation centre will any quarter be given whatsoever. I pledge it."
I nodded. Sorry, Pullo. I get uptight sometimes.
"I would too,"
he said, gesturing at the party surrounding him,
"if the fates of so many special beings weighed on me head."
It just makes me feel so much better. Pullo nodded.
"Aye, I live to serve. Now, all of ye who need it, get some sleep. The rest of us have work to do."